Guys, they did it. Just like Jack promised. Put aside the copium because the smell of gunfire and freedom has filled the air once again. Cloud9, our region's one and only major winners, are back in CSGO. North America, ladies and gentlemen, has been saved. What's that? Gambit? Okay, so before I dive into what has to be the weirdest piece of Counter-Strike news I have ever delivered on a Don't At Me, I must ask that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. North America, once again, has a top 3 Counter-Strike roster in the world, so we're going to be doing a lot more of these. I know what I said, all right? I know what I said. All right, so after exiting the King of Shooters just over a year ago, following the highly publicized failure of their so-called Colossus roster, Cloud9 are back in Counter-Strike. Why is this a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because Cloud9 have a storied history in CSGO. They've been around since almost the very beginning of Global Offensive, fielding beloved rosters and providing homes to legends, prodigies, and hopefuls alike. They've seen ups, downs, and everything in between. But let's not let any of this distract us from the fact that FaZe Clan blew a 15-11 lead in the CSGO Boston Major Final on the final map, Inferno, giving C9 and NA their first major.
We saw it from this position before. He cannot miss a single shot. Guardian waits patiently as Cloud9 sets the push up. Oh, it's happened! They made it work! Cloud9 are your E-League Major champions!
Of course, it was after winning the major at the start of 2018 that things started to kind of fall off a cliff for Cloud9. From disbands, to disasters, to rebuilds, to roster drops, to a multi-cajillion-dollar Colossus that failed miserably thanks in large part to COVID, C9 sort of understandably left CSGO in the spring of 2020, which I did a Don't At Me about, coincidentally, with the intention of returning when pastures were greener. And apparently that time is now. Because what better way to save North American Counter-Strike than by slapping your jersey on a group of tried and tested Europeans? That's right, folks. Cloud9's brand spanking new CSGO lineup is none other than Gambit. So why and how did this happen? Well, for starters, they played for a Russian org. And if you've watched the news at any point in the last 2 months, it should be fairly obvious why that matters. If it isn't, I don't know. Ask your parents, teachers, open a newspaper, whatever. Needless to say, with tournament organizers like ESL banning Russian orgs from participating in their events in support of Ukraine, and lineups like Gambit and Virtus.pro being forced to play under nameless, orgless banners, it sort of made sense that something like this might happen. But the second reason, Gambit are a really good team. Is it a weird signing? I mean, yeah, sorta. Just because Cloud9 have kind of always been about grass-fed, locally sourced NA talent. Is it a good signing? I think it's an amazing signing. Literally like 2 days after the signing went public, Cloud9 were able to boast that they had a roster in the top 3 of HLTV's global rankings. Talk about a we take those type situation. Now, you might be wondering, to North American fans, are Hobbit, Axile, Shiro, Inters, and Nafany the most marketable of personalities? Language barrier aside, I honestly think they kind of are. And I think if people stopped begrudging them over the whole onliner thing for half a second, they'd probably start to see how funny and endearing these dudes can actually be. But I also think that when your roster is this good, it kinda sorta doesn't matter. In just a short period of time, the now ex-Gambit players have already established themselves as a group of hardy, hardened hopefuls who thrive in Tier 1 European CS. Something that actual North American lineups have struggled to do for, well, forever, but especially as of late. So instead of trying to assemble a group of ragtag North American up-and-comers or building a super team like with the Colossus, Jack, C9's owner, just opted to buy a tried, tested, pre-packaged deal. And he made sure to buy the whole shebang. Coach, analyst, manager, to ensure that it stays untouched. In terms of how well this roster can do, I think it's fair to say that they'll win. Like, they'll do well. It's Gambit. I can't say whether they'll win the major, since they're obviously still quite young and obviously have a lot of growing to do. But I think it's fair to say that with the support of a massive tier 1 esports infrastructure, they can only get better. A signing such as this also has the potential to attract both Cloud9 specifically and NACS at large a ton of CIS fans. In fact, if you look at the comments on their announcement video, you can already see legions of fans, Eastern European or otherwise, expressing thanks to C9 for essentially saving the ex-Gambit roster. Does this signing spell great things for the future of North American Counter-Strike? I mean, it's hard to say. They are still a bunch of CIS players at the end of the day. Do we now, as North Americans, have a roster in the global top 3 rankings, and will there be USA chance when they inevitably topple FaZe in a major final? God, I hope so. Memes aside, we shouldn't underestimate the significance of having yet another NA org in the, truly upper echelon of competitive CS, even if it's in name only. There are tons of NA kids who watch Cloud9 compete in all esports, and watching them win in Counter-Strike could inspire them to start playing. But until the next Stewie 2K starts smoke pushing his way into the scene, let's just take solace in the fact that a North American mainstay is back, and that judging by the roster they signed, they're here to stay. It's just what we do, Danny. It's what we do, all right? There's an old saying in NA Dota that if your team didn't have at least 3 Europeans on it, you couldn't call yourself an actual North American Dota team. It was just, it's just not proper.
When they just got, when they only got 2, it's like, oh, so when are you guys going pro?
Yeah. They only have 2 Europeans. So when are you going full NA?
Yeah. Oh, you're going professional, so there you are.